Alright, and we're back for race 4 of the 2015 B14 Worlds at McCrae, Australia. A few waves home to those watching on YouTube. Here we got Blue Bandit, Glenn Cardwell, who's come down from New South Wales for the championships. And they're lining up for the first start. Everyone's getting ready and in position. And looks like the postponement flag's been put up, so looks like the race committee's going to shift the course, and they'll get another start underway shortly.
So good shot too, Ken.
So the competitors are just waiting for the committee to reset things, and here comes the Spirit of Tasmania past on its daily trip up the harbour this time of year. The Spirit's doing day crossings at the moment, so the boat leaves Devonport early in the morning and arrives late in the afternoon prior to setting sailing again for the evening. And we're back on the start line here, and we're within a minute to go. And the class flag's up, so everyone's racking up there, and it looks like everyone's very close to the line. It'll be interesting to see if a general recall's called here. Oh, and there it is, general recall. And the whole fleet will come back and we'll do it all again. And we're in our next starting sequence here, less than a minute to go. As you can see, the swells come up a bit. And looks like the pin end's certainly favoured. As you can see, most of the boats are down that far end of the start line. And it's go, and looks like, gosh, one of the ones on the end there has got off to a clean start. It'll be interesting to see if they were over at the start line. And it was a black flag start, so if they were, that's race over for them. The fleet's certainly making the most of a nice bit of breeze here at the moment. Both skipper and crew are on the wing hiking, and looks like there's a couple of boats trying to make their way through on port tack, trying to get some clear air and make their way up the course to the top mark. Got our French team here, 777. They're out on the right hand side of the course at the moment, trying to find a slot to get across to the left to the favoured side of the course. It's a beautiful day here at McCrae, blue skies, a few clouds, and very beautiful sailing. The only thing is, to the viewers, you can't see the 10 to 20 degree shifts which are impacting on all of the sailors across the course, and it's certainly making tough sailing. Here we are at the top mark. Andre Webster's rounded, looks like in first position there, or certainly very close to it, followed closely by the GBR 761 combination of Chris and Tom on the Whitsundays Marine boat, and closely followed by Siren there, who's having a great race, and GBR 791, Mark Watts and Chris Bishop there rounding inside them. And Mark Barnes is up the top of the fleet there as well. He's shot round, and I didn't see that one, but Rick Plains rounded in first position right in front of Andre and Craig from Canberra. Alright, and just behind Mark Barnes we've got GBR 785. It looks like the British fleet has certainly made the most of the first upwind, and there's another British boat, 786, making their way across. Looks like Richie and Lisa are sailing in the nude there. They've had to make another tack there to get round the mark. And there goes 373 a little bit further back than in race 3, which was first this morning. Oz 372 again up the front of the fleet there, the first Tassie boat to round the top mark. And they'll be certainly keen to hold on to that position throughout the race. And they're closely followed by Oz 375, a couple of the locals from the Mornington Peninsula there. Another boat's had to throw in a tack there to make this small blue mark here. This is the spreader mark, and it's very shy today, so it's certainly making it interesting for the competitors to get round with so much tide pushing down the bay and causing quite a lot of havoc. Here's Guy Bancroft rounding back in the mid-fleet. He's certainly be looking to make some gains on the downwind and try and come out in a better position at the bottom mark. Guy's come nice and deep in there as he come around to the top mark, and he'll certainly be looking to jibe off soon. And we're on board here with Sophie and Andy from Wallara Sailing Club on 778. And they've popped their kite nicely, and they're away and set. Great set there, Andy. Alright, and here comes 1378, Team Get, and closely followed by Oz 370 on Wing It. As you can see here, the boats are trying to point up as high as they can to be able to make it round this spreader mark, and it's certainly creating some difficult sailing for all the competitors with this strong tide pulling them against the marks, and they're having to give it lots of space to ensure they don't hit the mark, because if they do, they're liable to do what we call a 360 penalty, which is they've got to do the attack and a jibe, or a jibe and attack, and complete a full circle. As you can see there with Kelvin rounding the mark, he's only just been able to get round it before his boat's been pulled to the left, as you can see, as he's gone deep there and pulled his spinnaker up. Here's Team Rocket Ship. They're certainly a long way back in the fleet there, and will be looking to improve on their current position. They've managed to get out the wrong side of the course there, and certainly looking to make some gains on the downwind. And they've gone for a jibe there to try and get some clear air and carry the breeze across with them. And here we've got Fluorescent Adolescent. They've pulled up their beautiful pink kite there, and newly engaged on New Year's Eve, so they're certainly doing their best to sail well and keep things as clean as they can on the boat. Oh, and this looks ugly here with, I'm guessing this is Oz 379 there with their kite. They've had to do a penalty turn, and they've done that before pulling their spinnaker back up. Still struggling there in the distance, Oz 379, to get their kite sorted, but hopefully they can. And oh, here's another problem with the spinnakers that we get from time to time. The spinnakers can get hooked on the back of the jib, and that causes all sorts of problems with the setting of the spinnaker. So there's a few different tactics the skippers use to get that sorted out, but it looks like Glenn and his son have got that under control. And we're at the top mark for the second time. Oz 371's got a clear lead. So this is Rick and Alice Plain on Bang Bang. They're from the 16-foot skiff club on the harbour. And they're closely followed by Chris and Tom in GBR 761. Here's Chris and Tom going for the bear away. These the jib and the main a little bit, and Chris coming in there, and Tom pulling up the spinnaker as fast as they can, as you can see there, popping it nicely. And Tom's got it all a bit of a rough set there, but they've pulled it together, and they're closely followed here by Andre and Craig, sailing one more for the bone.
Gary Hosey.
As you can see here, you've got both crews coming up to windward there, fully hiked, trying to make the most of this extra gust that's come through the fleet. And they're certainly carrying some good speed, and the boat's nice and flat and moving really quick through the water. No doubt they'll be getting very close to throwing in attack here, and they'll be doing it right in front of us. And pop, and looks like GBR 791 snuck through the inside. And it'll be interesting to see how they get round the mark, but Nick Darlow and his crew, Dave Grace, have certainly carried some speed out of that tack, and they'll be looking to do what they can to keep moving. There's a couple of other boats coming through. We've got Mark Barnes and also Oz 781. And here's Oz 375. They're certainly a little bit further back in the fleet compared to the last race, and they're closely followed by GBR 786, which is Leakey and Jerry. And Boneworks also in the mix there, and they certainly have gained a few spots up that first work. And here's Guy Bancroft. Guy Bancroft's made his way, and he's certainly pushed through that mid-fleet, and he's right on the tail end of that first bunch. He'll be looking to gain some more spots as they go downwind for the second time. And Richie and Lisa sailing in the nude on Oz 380 have certainly made some big gains coming up the second upwind, and certainly on the way downwind that time, and their lightweight combination has certainly done them well. Steve Miller's holding on pretty well in Oz 367, sailing on Phantom with Lauren Bird, and they're certainly on the outside of a bunch of about 3 or 4 boats there. It'll be very interesting to see how they round and pull their spinnakers up on the downwind. Oh, and there they are. It looks like Steve Miller's got a nice wine glass. Hopefully he can get that out. And we've got the Moppet combination here. Brothers from the UK come across to do the World Championships, and they're certainly having some fun and enjoying their sailing. They're closely followed by Oz 374 sailing on Toxic, and we've also got Bondi Tram here on 355, who's also getting around the mark in a reasonably good position there, just in front of Sophie and Andy sailing on 778. And here we are going around the top mark, and they're going for a hoist there, and we're back with 299 Louis Miranda and his crew there. Despite the sail number, these guys are from Portugal and Russia respectively, so we've certainly got a good international contingent here at the World Championships. It's interesting, Lewis is just in front of his old boat there, Yellow Bone. Anthony and Lewis sailed for 2 years together, and Lewis used to crew for Anthony on the Yellow Bone. And here we've got France 777. They're a bit back in the fleet today. They'll be looking to make some gains on the second downwind. All right, and this is Wing It. Freya is sailing with a shotgun crew here that's been able to join her for the championship. They're trying to sneak along there without losing too much boat speed. The breeze has certainly lightened off after the front of the fleet came round with good pressure. And as you can see there, the spinnakers, even though they've got their spinnakers up, they're certainly not making way very quickly, and it's pretty tough going out there with this strong tide and the variable breezes on the course. And back upwind for the third time, we've got Bang Bang Oz 371 with Rick and Alice, and they've certainly maintained their lead and have done very well and positioned their boat very well throughout the third lap. And they're certainly looking to be able to take out this wind once they get down to the bottom mark for the final time. As you can see, the pressure's built again. Rick and Alice are just making their way along here, and they're certainly doing very well. And look, there's the finish line. They've come through nicely, and it looks like they're going to take out the win and across the line there for first place. And as you can see, the fleet's spread out again quite a bit. We've got Oz 156 here. They're making their way through for their third lap. They're about to head back upwind, and they've done that just after the first boat has crossed the line for the win. So interesting sailing we've certainly got there. And here we are on board with GBR 761. They're making their way back upwind, and they've just crossed the finish line there for second position. Quite a bit back from first place. They've certainly, Rick and Alice certainly pulled away in that last downwind. And rounding in third place here, for the finish line is Andre and Craig sailing one more for the bone, another one for the bone, and they've certainly been enjoying sailing on their new boat. And here they come across the finish line, and that's third position, Oz 782, well done. The sun's lowering down towards the end of the afternoon, and it looks like there's another race on. So here we go, nice tight tussle here, rounding their last mark, and the Spinnakers are down pretty quickly here. And who have we got here? It looks like it's Oz 793, which is Guy Bancroft. He's managed to get through that entire bunch and make his way through to try and snatch fourth position on that last downwind. It really shows a great sailor when you can see someone come through from mid-fleet to fourth position. And look, there is some very tough competition out there. So it's, you know, it's a real tribute to Guy and his sailing, and certainly his great crew on board, Lockie, who is an absolutely outstanding sailor, and they've trained hard to get to where they are on the course there. And it's a pretty tight tussle here. Mark Barnes is on the inside here, dropping his kite. He's certainly looking to hold on to those spots that he's got, and he's closely followed by Oz 781 and GBR 770 there, who's struggling to get their kite down in time. Oz 372 is pretty close on their tail and could sneak a place if he can come across with some good speed. And Oz 367 is also having a great race there, and they'll certainly be very happy with their result. There's Peter and Crispin just heading away across to the finish line, and we've got GBR 764 slamming it in for their final drop, and they're just pointing it back up to head across to the finish line. And looks like they've had a really nice drop there, so they'll be able to use that to their advantage. And 1378's managed to sneak up the inside of Sophie and Andy on 778 to be able to get some pace on, and they've certainly been able to snatch an extra place there on the final mark rounding, and that's exactly what type of result can occur after a bad drop at the last mark. There's some good pressure carrying the fleet back downwind for the final time, and it'll certainly be interesting. There's another bunch approaching here, and things will be very tight on the bottom mark for the final time. Here we go, we've got two more boats coming in. Looks like the Blue Bandit's coming in to drop their kite for the final time and come across to the finish line, closely followed by Oz 779, which is Mark Laneson and his new crew, who's filling in for Mark's normal crew, John Nolan, who's unfortunately got his foot in a boot at the moment, and John's doing our 5 minutes of fame on a daily basis. Oh, and we've got a boat upside down here. Who's this? I think this is Oz 299, and Oz 792 have snuck through the inside to get through and finish off their race as fast as they can. And Oz 299 is totally upside down, so that's a bad way to finish their race, but hopefully they can get it back up and salvage a few positions. There's certainly some extra breeze on for these final finishers who are coming in pretty hot around that bottom mark, and they're certainly making the most and flying along that bottom line to the finish line. Here's Yellowbone 36357. They've snuck around the bottom mark, and they're heading to the finish line there. And as you can see, both on the wing, sails cracked off just a little bit and moving fast. And 299's finally got up. They're certainly they'll be keen to get moving again and get across that finish line and get their race over and done with before they clean up what seems to be a bit of a mess and get ready for the final race of the day. Here's Oz 376. So this is Usain Bolt. They're making their way across to the final finish line there, and Oz 280, who's also getting ready to cross the finish line.
We thought you guys were in a better position to actually make
And that's another race over, everybody. Now the fleet just prepares and gets ready for the final race of the day, which is race 5 of the World Championships.